Hey, it's Andrew Meet Rich, and we need to talk about what's happening across the pond, because Britain is having one of those weeks where everything seems to be falling apart and coming together at the same time. I once worked inside a major media organization, one you definitely recognize, and I saw firsthand how they'd massage stories, twist facts, and serve narratives instead of truth. I walked away from that. Now I work for myself, I answer to nobody, and I tell you what actually matters. Before we dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. It actually helps more than you think. And if you find value in what we do here, if you appreciate independent journalism that doesn't bow to corporate masters or political pressure, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It's not about the money, it's about building something real, a community that values truth over convenience. All right. Let's get into it. So Keir Starmer, Britain's Prime Minister, just flew to Egypt, to Sharm el-Sheikh specifically, for what's being called a historic summit on Gaza. There's a ceasefire in place, brokered primarily by Donald Trump, who's co-chairing this meeting with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Now, I'm not here to sing Trump's praises or tear him down, but let's be real, this is his show. The first phase involves releasing hostages held by certain groups and Israel releasing around 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Later phases are supposed to address troop withdrawal and Gaza's governance, whatever that ends up meaning. Starmer's there to express gratitude, thank the US, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, pledge Britain's support for humanitarian efforts and the peace process. Sounds good on paper, right? But here's where it gets interesting. The opposition is absolutely hammering him, saying he's just there for the photo op, that London played essentially zero role in actually negotiating this deal. It's symbolic participation, they're calling it. And honestly, can you blame them for that assessment? But wait, there's more happening on British soil that might be even more telling. On October 11th, over 600,000 people flooded the streets of London, demanding justice for Palestine and accountability for what they're calling systematic violence in Gaza. 600,000. That's not a protest. That's a movement. Despite the ceasefire, which many see as fragile at best, protest leaders, including Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, came out swinging against the British government. They're accusing officials of trying to suppress these demonstrations and of maintaining support for Israeli policies. The message from the crowd was clear. The ceasefire is just step one. They want full accountability. They want an end to occupation. Now stick with me here because the political landscape in Britain is shifting in ways that should worry anyone paying attention. Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party, just hit 20% support in Scotland. 20%, that's threatening both the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish National Party heading into the 2026 Holyrood elections. Here's what makes this fascinating and dangerous at the same time. The Scottish National Party is pushing hard for a second independence referendum, which experts say might actually be strengthening Reform UK's position among voters who oppose Scottish separation from Britain. Reform's anti-establishment rhetoric, combined with their hardline stance on immigration, is pulling in people who are fed up with Starmer's economic and migration policies. But here's the twist. Reform UK is splitting the pro-British vote, which paradoxically might help the SNP consolidate left-wing voters who are terrified of Farage gaining more power. Political analysts are warning that both parties are so obsessed with the independence question that they're ignoring what most people actually care about: the economy, healthcare, public services. Sound familiar? If you're finding this valuable, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about Scotland's political future. And don't forget to subscribe because this story is far from over. Now let's talk about something that sounds almost absurd until you realize it's deadly serious. In Stockport, two local councillors, John Burney and Claire Vibert, are demanding that English and British flags be immediately removed from street lamps. Why? Because residents complained that the flags, part of something called Operation Raise the Colours, constitute intimidation and hidden prejudice. The town council had previously stated the flags would stay up unless they posed a safety risk or were damaged, fearing that removing them would actually increase tensions. Council leader Mark Roberts pointed out that in other areas, taking flags down just led to more flags appearing. The government and Starmer himself support displaying national flags. But apparently in modern Britain, your own flag might be considered offensive. Let that sink in for a moment. Speaking of cultural battles, Washington National Cathedral just wrapped up an exhibition called Hear Us, where they literally covered the cathedral walls with graffiti, questions to God spray painted inside a sacred space. The project was curated by poet Alex Wells and Jacqueline Cresswell, working with marginalized communities including various diaspora groups, neurodiverse individuals, and LGBTQ plus communities. Now this triggered massive backlash from believers, conservative activists, and even US Vice President J.D. Vance, who called it desecration. The organizers insist the drawings didn't damage the building and will be removed by January 18th. Dean David Monteith defended it, saying the goal was to connect cultures and let people express themselves openly. Well, tourists planning to visit British cathedrals might want to check what's on the walls these days. There's a famous cathedral, it's renowned not just across Europe but worldwide. And now you might find contemporary art installations instead of traditional religious imagery. Let's shift gears to something Britain does well: military operations. Royal Marines conducted a successful operation in the Gulf of Oman, intercepting narcotics worth £35 million. A sniper from a Wildcat helicopter launched from a frigate took out the engine of a smuggling speedboat with a single shot. The boat was moving at over 40 knots, that's roughly 46 miles per hour on water, and the sniper nailed it. Marines from 42 Commando and the ship's crew seized over 1.5 tons of substances, including certain opioids, methamphetamine, and hashish. The Ministry of Defense says this is the first time they've used non-lethal fire in the region to stop a suspect vessel. They're calling it an example of British forces' high training and coordination, preventing these materials from reaching streets and cutting off funding to extremist groups. I only have one question. Can we send that sniper back to Britain and station him at the French border? Just asking. Now here's a story that shows you how deep organized networks run. In Liverpool, 12 members of a narcotics organization received prison sentences after a 15-month investigation by Merseyside police under the codename Operation Chart. The leader, 34-year-old Joshua Hayes, who organized the supply of about 9 kilograms of certain powdered substances worth £900,000, got 20 years. During raids, police found 3 firearms, 2 Scorpion submachine guns, and another pistol hidden behind a false wall and wrapped in kitchen towels. They also uncovered a whole supply network involving over 240 kilograms of cannabis worth millions. Police noted that these weapons had been used in cases involving loss of life, and the organization's activities were linked to narcotics trade, intimidation, and street culture. All participants admitted guilt and received sentences ranging from 4 to 20 years. I'm starting to think Guy Ritchie just reads British newspapers for his movie plots. Here's a story that'll make you question everything. East Suffolk Council is catching heat for deciding to spend £350,000 to replace garden waste bin lids, changing them from green to brown. Why? To avoid confusion with new bins for paper and cardboard, which also have green lids. Council member for Environment Sally Noble says the changes are necessary to comply with new government waste regulations and prevent contamination. Critics, including councillors Peter Boyt and Mike Jepson, suggested cheaper alternatives, stickers or warning labels on bins. But the project was approved unanimously because replacing just the lids was deemed more economical than buying entirely new containers, which would have cost over £1 million. So yeah, only £350,000 just to change lid colours. Are people colourblind? Can't tell green from orange? This is the efficiency of government spending on full display. But here's something that might actually make sense. Starting October 2027, UK residents will be able to get money back for returning empty bottles and cans at major supermarkets, Tesco, Asda, Morrisons, and Sainsbury's. This is part of a new government program to reduce plastic waste. The deposit return scheme will cover aluminum, steel, and plastic bottles between 150 millilitres and 3 litres across England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. You'll be able to return containers manually or through machines, getting cash or vouchers without needing a receipt. HDPE bottles like milk containers and medical packaging won't be included. The Environment Ministry says this program will help cut waste, create 25,000 jobs, and attract over £10 billion in recycling investment. Drop a comment. Does your city already have these machines, or is Britain about to be first in the world with this idea? Now let's talk about something that should concern everyone. Britons have cut consumer spending more sharply than residents of any other G7 country, despite rising real incomes. Since the pandemic started, household spending in real terms has grown only 1%, and per capita, it's actually down 3%. Meanwhile, in the US, such spending increased 12.7%. Economists link this caution to high rates, inflation shocks, and heightened anxiety. Families prefer saving money rather than spending it. The savings rate hit 10.7%, almost double pre-crisis levels. The Bank of England is worried. If demand doesn't recover, they'll have to revise growth forecasts and interest rate projections. Analysts say that along with inflation, constraining factors include economic uncertainty, rising taxes, an aging population, and stagnant housing prices, which weaken the sense of prosperity. Given the presence of such complex phrases and figures, you understand this information came from the Financial Times. The only thing that amused me on that page was looking at the names of the people who prepared the material: Delphine Strauss and Valentina Romi. Delphine Strauss, now that's a name. Railway company Greater Anglia, which serves routes between Cambridge, Ipswich, Norwich and Colchester, plus London and airport station trips and other directions, has been transferred to state ownership as part of the rail network renationalisation programme. Now half the operators in the country are state-managed. The Transport Ministry says this move toward a more unified Great British railway system aims to improve reliability and service quality. Greater Anglia, recently named Operator of the Year, will continue developing the region, opening new stations and introducing a fleet of bi-mode trains, whatever that means exactly, in the coming months. Several more companies will return to state management, including West Midlands and others. Leave a comment. Have train prices changed at all, in a downward direction perhaps? Testing? Is this mic on? Now about a mosque in East London? The facility faced criticism over participation rules for a charitable event called Muslim Charity Run, which took place in London's Victoria Park and was advertised as inclusive and family-friendly, but only allowed men and girls under 12 to participate. Head of Muslim Women's Network Shaista Gohir and feminist activist Kelly J. Keane called the restrictions a violation of equality law and manifestation of sexism. Mosque representatives rejected all accusations, citing provisions of the Equality Act that permit single-sex sporting events, and they drew analogies with women's runs and gender-separated sports sessions in other religious communities. The Equality Commission stated they would review complaints on this matter. Which community are you guys from? This is the kind of thing that sparks real debates about where religious freedom ends and discrimination begins, and there are no easy answers. Information for British passport holders. If you've finally gotten yours, you should know that Britain announced a new design, the first major change in 5 years, not just partial tweaks, but significant alterations. Starting this December, the cover will feature the King's coat of arms, and internal pages will showcase landscapes from all 4 countries of the United Kingdom: Ben Nevis, the Lake District, Three Cliffs Bay, and the Giant's Causeway. The passport will have enhanced anti-counterfeiting protection thanks to new holographic and semi-transparent elements, which according to the Home Office makes this the most secure passport ever issued. Passports bearing Elizabeth II's coat of arms will remain valid until their expiration date. Authorities urge citizens to check their passport validity periods and submit renewal applications well in advance. And finally, something that's either genius or ridiculous depending on your perspective. British pasta lovers are preparing for an unprecedented attraction. Chain restaurant Zizi is launching Bring Your Pasta, Get Free Pasta, where if you bring any pack of unopened dry pasta to participating locations, you get a free pasta dish. All collected pasta will be donated to local food banks. The chain says this gesture unites people and spreads joy, turning one plate of pasta into many others. Of course, this charitable action has several restrictions. To get the coveted free dish, you'll have to order something else from the menu. The promotion doesn't work for delivery and can't be combined with other discounts. And yes, if you order multiple dishes, only the cheapest one will be free. As they say, it's still something. Buy pasta for 50 cents, bring it to a restaurant, and eat some expensive dish. What a deal. So let's recap what we've covered today, because this has been a lot. Keir Starmer flew to Egypt for a Gaza peace summit where Trump is taking the lead, while 600,000 people protested in London demanding real accountability. Reform UK is surging to 20% in Scotland, threatening to reshape British politics entirely. Local councillors want English flags removed from streets because they might be offensive. A cathedral covered its walls with graffiti, calling it art. Royal Marines intercepted £35 million worth of narcotics with precision military action. Liverpool sentenced 12 people in a major organised network case. A council is spending £350,000 to change bin lid colours. Britain is launching a bottle return program in 2027. Consumer spending has dropped more than any other G7 nation despite rising incomes. Greater Anglia Railways return to state ownership. A mosque faced criticism for gender-restricted charity runs. New passport designs are rolling out with the King's coat of arms, and you can trade dry pasta for a restaurant meal at Zizi. This is the Britain we're looking at in October 2025, a country grappling with international crises, domestic political upheaval, cultural wars over flags and faith, organized networks operating in plain sight, bureaucratic spending that defies logic, economic anxiety despite theoretical recovery, and creative charity schemes involving Italian food. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's real. If this kind of independent analysis matters to you, if you value someone who'll tell you what's actually happening without corporate spin or political agenda, then do two things for me. Hit that like button and subscribe, because that's how we grow this community. And seriously consider becoming a channel sponsor. I'm not reading scripts handed down from executives. I'm not protecting powerful interests. I'm one person trying to cut through the noise and give you the truth as I see it. Your support makes that possible, and it means more than you know. Thanks for watching. I'm Andrew Meet Rich, and I'll see you in the next one.